Hello everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert K. Sarkos is your usual suspect, as always. Anyways, now that the tensions have finally come down, I wish to once again welcome you back from that action-packed weekend that I do hope you all enjoyed. Barcelona were beating 5-1 up against Villarreal, although that match ended in very unfortunate circumstances. Their goalkeeper and captain, the German international in Marc-Andre ter Stegen, was stretched off through injury. It is reported that he has ruptured his patellar ligament in the right knee and is destined to be on the sidelines for about 7 to 8 months through injury. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. That means his season is as good as done. And in the wake of that news, their former goalkeeper and Manchester City goalkeeper then, Claudio Bravo, has come out to say he will be willing to come out of retirement to help Barcelona should they wish to call on to his services. Away from Spain, the Milan derby ended in defeat for the Scudetto reigning champions of Inter Milan as AC Milan beat them by 2-1. What a spirited match that was. But I thought AC Milan were the deserved winners. They were the better team on the day, in my opinion. Very, very incredible game we did get to watch on that one. Quite a number of missed opportunities, including one from Tammy Abraham there. But it is what it is. Paul Fonseca guiding AC Milan to their victory against their rivals in Inter Milan. There, of course, it is Simone Inzaghi still in charge of Inter Milan. Away from there, we go to the Premier League, where Manchester City fought tooth and nail to force Arsenal into a 2-all draw at the Etihad Stadium. Who would have thought that by the blow of the final whistle, it would have been Manchester City celebrating, securing a point in this particular fixture. Arsenal defended with their lives, or defended like their lives depended on it, following having been reduced down to 10 men after Leandro Trossard's red card at the tail end of the first half. But now that all that is done and dusted, of course the game did end in spectacular fashion with John Stoney's late equalizer, not to mention all the chaos that came about at the blow of the final whistle, brought Erling Haaland literally in everybody's face, telling off Mikel Arteta to stay humble, asking Lewis Kelly who the hell he is, the 17-year-old, Arsenal star that was brought on late in the game after he had already been booked while still on the sidelines of the pitch. And then, of course, he had a spat there with Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Magalhaes somewhere involved slightly in the mix. It was a bit of chaos, and Manchester City players have not stopped mourning about all that since yesterday. But anyways, won't shape our focus on that. Our focus will be on the turf where the football actually happened. Again, all the post-match, interviews and reports between managers, that's Mikel Arteta and Pep Guardiola, were all centered about the performance of the referee, which not something we would love to be the case, because in any case we want the managers to be giving us their tactical insights about the game, how they saw the game, what transpired for them during the course of over 90 minutes and all that kind of thing. But I did see Mikel Arteta, telling the reporters there that, as you can see, you've not yet asked me anything about any tactical question, but it's all about the officiating decisions, which he refrained himself from commenting about extendedly. So, of course, Pep Guardiola also was commenting about the same things, saying that the next time the referee invites them for a talk, that's in reference to his captain, who had been invited for a chit-chat with Bukayo Saka and referee Michael Oliver prior to Arsenal's equalizer, saying that they would not go. And I do not know whether that would call for subordination, if it is the right time to use in this particular case, that the referee would be forced to dish out a yellow card. But Pep Guardiola says, next time they call us, we are not going. Why? Because they did feel hard done by in the manner which Michael Oliver let play restart before Kyle Walker settled back well into his position. Now, they do have a valid argument in a way that, but also it begs a question. When you look at the referee where he was standing and how he sort of runs a little forward prior to the play of that ball, Kyle Walker has retreated back to his position. It's not like he had his back, turned to the referee and he's facing his goal. That wasn't the case. He had reached the line of defense, that sort of back four, and he was commanding his, the players. He was leading on the pitch, particularly on what to do, perhaps how to position themselves better. And then, of course, Thomas Partey does play a quick ball into Gabriel Martinelli. And then by the time Martinelli runs towards Kyle Walker, he did have that moment of, slight panic to say, I wasn't ready for this first bit of play. But, and then, of course, I believe because that moment resulted into a goal is why we are even having to discuss it to this extent. Had it not resulted into a goal, then probably it would not have been an issue. And then, okay, Kyle Walker is not back in position well enough. But when Martinelli plays that ball back in the space for Ricardo Carafiori to run onto and then, smash into the far post to hit that equalizer, where all the other Manchester City defenders or players to cover that spot. Of course, the equalizer came just moments after Rodri had been withdrawn for what is feared for a knee injury. Rodri had a physical tussle, a little bit one between him and Thomas Partey prior to a Manchester City corner, and then he ended up on the floor. When he hit the floor, he only rose up limp off the pitch. Now, preliminary reports that are yet to be confirmed by the club do suggest that it is possible that he may have torn his anterior cruciate ligament in that knee. So Manchester City will be hoping that that's not the case, but should that be the case, then he will be destined for a spell on the sidelines of about 7 to 8 months, practically for the remainder of the season. Now, that would be an ugly blow for Manchester City, who are, of course, very much in contention for the Premier League title, as well as wanting to fight for the UEFA Champions League and all other pieces of silverware that could be at their disposal. So, but that notwithstanding, so it was in the aftermath of him being withdrawn just a couple of minutes later that then Arsenal go on to have their equalizer. And then, as we saw moments later, getting into the lead. And, it was that kind of game that gave us a part of what we wanted, but not everything we would have loved in a game of that caliber. We're talking about two teams, one who has been, champion for the last 2 seasons, and the other has been runner-up for those 2 seasons. So they went toe to toe to see who would be the difference, but at the end of the day, they did share the spoils in that 2-2 draw, like I mentioned, John Stones scoring the late equalizer there. But today, I want us to also talk about Chelsea. Now, I got this sneaky feeling, more like the one I had last season about Liverpool, how Liverpool sort of went unnoticed, and by that they did go about their business really well and crept themselves into title contention, even leading the table at some point in the season without practically anybody noticing. I'm getting those vibes at Chelsea now. Now, I know there's a good number of Chelsea fans who are not yet sold about, the tactical prowesses of Enzo Maresca as a manager, but I think he's starting to tick the right boxes. First of all, he's so far been consistent, or he's tried to be consistent with his backline. Of course, he does prefer Wesley Fofana and Levi Colwill to be in that centre back. Marco Cucurella, who is now playing as an inverted fullback, also in that position. So things are really starting to look pretty. Now, in midfield, of course, you have a bad game, he has no problem pulling you out. Same applies for the forward lines, because he has plenty of options at his disposal to sort of take these gambles. Whether they will work or not, that we'll wait to see, but so far they've been working. And against West Ham, I thought, it being a London derby against Julian Lopetegui, it would have been more tactically, pronounced for him to go up against Chelsea, who are a little bit of an unknown quantity, given their lack of consistency in recent times. So, but the way they brushed off West Ham, especially in that first half, just looked a little too easy. to the extent that Julian Lopetegui was forced to make first half substitution, withdrawing, I think, a Rodriguez for Thomas Suchek in that game. Of course, Nicholas Jackson scoring the brace in the first half, including the second goal with the outside of his foot. Very, very beautiful goal there. The first one slotting the ball in between the legs of Alfonso Areola. And then, I mean, West Ham, they just defended so poorly on the day. First of all, they were trying to play a backline with their fullbacks further up front, and then Chelsea were catching them flat-footed almost all the time. They just couldn't handle those spaces, the pace of the Chelsea players and all that. And then we come into the second half and you're thinking West Ham need an early goal to sort of fight their way back to try and stay in this game. And guess what? Again, they're caught flat-footed, and Cole Palmer, scores the third, and eventually it ended 3-0. But I mean, I'm starting to get that sneaky feeling that Chelsea could maintain themselves up there, and because you have this conversation being dominated by Manchester City, Arsenal, and perhaps Liverpool and Aston Villa in a way that they could sort of stay in that zone and go about their business unnoticed, more like Liverpool were last season, because they're just getting things right. They're scoring the goals. Just against Bournemouth, they did miss lots of chances, just as much as Bournemouth had missed on the other end, but eventually they won it by 1-0. And they're not conceding too many, at least by this stage. They did concede 2 against Wolverhampton Wanderers, did concede 2 against Manchester City, but I mean, that's to be expected, and I think conceded 1 against Crystal Palace. So that's a tally of about 5 goals. I think the most well-defended team so far in the Premier League is Liverpool, who have only conceded a goal in that 1-0 defeat against Nottingham Forest, because over the weekend they were beating Bournemouth by 3-0, keeping yet another clean sheet. So Ibrahim Konate and Virgil van Dijk have really, positioned themselves. Luis Diaz, again, another player that is having literally a season of his Liverpool career so far, scoring the brace in that one. So clearly, there's something about Chelsea that is going right so far. If they can get their midfield consistency right in terms of who plays. Of course, we did see Cole Palmer playing ahead in front of Enzo Fernandez and I think Moises Caicedo. So that's the team. They're playing very, very beautiful football. Now, of course, with everything there is to talk about, I wouldn't want to conclude this brief episode without talking about Manchester United, who are, by the way, who fired blanks against Crystal Palace when they shared the spoils in a goalless draw at Selhurst Park. Now, there's always that, eerie feeling about when a team is playing or is faced off with one of their former players in the opposite side. Now, Manchester United were confronted with that fact when they found Dean Henderson, their former goalkeeper, in the Crystal Palace squad. Of course, players like Garnacho would have scored a brace or even more. Bruno Fernandes could have done more in that particular game. But Dean Henderson was in goal there to deny them for the number of times he did. But then Manchester United practically also didn't do themselves any favors. Of course, Andre Onana on the other side of the pitch also had his business to go about. But I had expected a bit more fight for Manchester United this weekend, especially when you're coming up a Crystal Palace side that I had yet to win a game this season. Until this stage, they've managed just 3 draws and, of course, 2 losses. I think one coming against West Ham, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, there's still questions about Erik ten Hag. I get the sense that he could have done better for this particular game to walk away with all 3 points. In a similar fashion, like Chelsea did grind it out against Bournemouth just the other weekend. So you would expect that maybe, just maybe, that when all had failed, somebody would pull a rabbit out of his pocket and get this Manchester United all 3 points. But it didn't happen. So there is still a bit of homework for the Red Devils to do there. But like I mentioned, most of these teams are going to be in action in the midweek. The likes of Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool are going to be involved in the EFL Cup, that's the Carabao Cup, while Manchester United and I think and Chelsea are going to have their engagements in the UEFA Conference League and the Europa League. In there, Manchester United do play FC20. I know for a fact that Arsenal play Bolton Wanderers on Wednesday. Manchester City are going to be at home against Watford. So I do expect a very much changed Manchester City lineup for that particular game. The likes of Rico Ruiz, Stefano Ortega to be given playing time. Of course, Matheus Nunes, Mateo Kovacic, who didn't start the weekend game, he had to come in to replace an injured Rodri. Phil Foden didn't start that particular game. Jack Grealish didn't start that particular game. So you look at the kind of team they will be fielding up against Watford, and you feel for Watford. Not that Watford are not capable, because usually when you go into cup ties, anything can happen in these small cup ties. We've seen it over the years that a small team like back then Nottingham Forest or MK Dons can come and beat up against an Arsenal or a Manchester United. So anything can happen with those cups. But usually Pep Guardiola leaves nothing to chance, especially at these preliminary stages of that competition. And the further he goes in the competition, the more he continues to field better players. And that's why at the end, eventually, last season we had a final for the Carabao Cup between Liverpool and Chelsea that once these teams get through the third and fourth round, then they start getting more serious. We did see Tottenham last week be pushed to the wire, and they had to win that one late on. Dijan Spence scoring the equalizer before I don't recall who found their winning goal. I think it was Brennan Johnson who found the winning goal in that particular game for them to advance to the next stage. But that's the action that will be coming your way in midweek. So do look out for that bit of action. I do know that in Spanish La Liga there will be a game tonight, but yeah, keep your eyes peeled to the channel, and do not forget to subscribe, comment, share your thoughts with me, and we'll continue this discussion in the comment section. Otherwise, stay blessed and have a wonderful week.